to Pastor KWalker and Reverend JALexander. And Ms. Alexander, before we had our, I think, second commercial break, before we had our second commercial break, we were talking about some of the statistical information in reference to incarceration in the state of Tennessee. And I think that you were giving us quite a bit of information. And what I'd like to do is to follow that up, because I think it's the kind of information that we need in order to deal with some of the issues that we have dealing with reform. And then after you speak to that for a couple of minutes, and then Pastor Walker will be able to join us again, and then we'll be able to wrap this show up for the morning. Let's do it from that perspective.
Okay, great, thank you. I think what we were talking about had to do with health care, you know. And in the state of Tennessee, it doesn't matter if you're in a private prison or a state prison, all of the health care is privatized, you know, and that's handled by both Corizon and Centurion in this state. And one of the things that I saw so often, and I know that Pastor Walker and others have seen, is the poor health care and the conditions of health care inside the prisons. You know, Pastor Walker talked about 3 meals in a cot before, and then you hear people say, oh, well, they get free health care. Trust me, it is not the health care you want. And so that's the other area that we're looking at as well, is health care in the prisons. Again, you look at that legislatively, you get it through litigation, you organize, and you educate. And that's our mantra, because you have to, it's a multi-level system if you want to be effective. And then the third area that we're looking at as well is parole in this state. You know, the issue of parole, I think, is an issue of accountability. And after having been to so many parole board hearings and speaking not just with individuals who are going up for parole, but with victims as well. You know, you begin, and that's where it really, really sunk in, and I began to understand how detrimental our system of retributive justice is. If you are concerned about victims, then a retribution system is not a system that's going to heal anyone. There are other systems, there are other possibilities out there, looking at areas of restorative justice, where you look to heal communities, where you look to actually heal victims, where you understand that vengeance will not heal a community, it will not heal a victim, and it is certainly not going to make people whole and restore, exactly. So we have communities now where fathers are missing, sons are missing, where whole segments of the communities are gone because they're locked away when their families have need of the economics of their presence and the love and the affection. And our communities are disintegrating and they're being torn apart by carceral slavery. You know, and so that is the other area that we look at as well. And accountability also goes to an issue of transparency. So I would expect, Dr. Haney, that like me, you want your government to be accountable, and you also seek transparency. You know, if we have an agency of government that is responsible for 28,000 lives, that has control over 28,000 bodies, I want some transparency and some accountability. And in a lot of states, you have an oversight committee, you know, for a Department of Corrections. And you know, we used to have one in the state of Tennessee. We had an oversight committee. I've spoken with state reps who were on that committee, but since about 2011, 2010, there have been no appointments to that committee. Okay? And that's another thing that I would hope your viewers think about when they think about accountability in government. We have a Department of Corrections that operates without oversight.
And doing whatsoever they please.
And doing whatsoever they please. So who is watching the watchers, you know? And that should cause your viewers great concern. Because, as the commissioners pointed out so many times, they're running $1 billion a year business. Where is that $1 billion a year going? You know, if you don't care about human rights, you know, and I wish, you know, I hope your viewers do, but then I hope if they don't care about that, perhaps they care about economics. You know, and let's start looking at the economics.
It's a very, very expensive system the way it's operating now, and the results that you're getting out of the money that you're spending it doesn't seem to be worth it.
That's exactly right, right? So if you were buying additional safety, then maybe it would be worth it. But the interesting thing is, when you look at the statistics, considering rates of recidivism, you know, the likelihood that someone will go back, let's think about those 51-year life sentences. Do you know who the Tennessee Department of Corrections indicates themselves having the lowest rates of recidivism? Your individual